Hello, I am Lisa Bell, and thank you for joining us on clickorlando.com, News 6 Plus, and YouTube on our News 6 channel. It's hard to believe, but we are now just 6 months away from the opening of Universal Orlando's newest and largest theme park ever. We're talking about Epic Universe. The park has been a huge undertaking, really decades in the making, if you go back and look at the history of this property. So joining us now for some more insight on how this all came about and what we can expect is one of our theme park experts, News 6 producer Ken Pilcher. Ken, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Lisa. How you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, and I have been reading some emails that you've been sending out
Mhm.
about the history of Epic Universe. And really, this park was announced widely to the public, it seems like in 2019. Correct me
hmm
if I'm wrong.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
but this piece of property, this large parcel of land in Orange County, really came under the Universal umbrella about a quarter century ago, about 25 years ago.
That's close, very close to right. 1998, I believe, is when they bought what was an enormous piece of land, around 1,200 acres, if my math is correct. It was an enormous piece of land owned by Lockheed Martin, the defense contractor. When they owned this vast acreage near Kirkman Road in Sand Lake, where they still have their headquarters, they used to be a lot easier to do defense work when there wasn't a whole city of people around you. But so Orlando was sort of grown up around what was nothing, and so they can't really do defense work out there. So they use some, of course, but they couldn't do like testing and that sort of things they would use in those fields. So they sold it off, I want to say in 1998, to the then parent company of Universal Orlando, which was not just Universal. It was another group, Blackstone, if I'm not mistaken. No, yeah, Blackstone and NCA Universal were the owners of it then. They had huge hopes for this piece of property. In 1998, the reason was they were already in the progress of a several billion-dollar project of turning it from one theme park, Universal Studios Florida, adding Islands of Adventure, a second theme park, the entire City Walk area, and several hotels, including the first one, Portofino Bay, and of course the two epic-sized parking garages. They thought this was going to be such a huge success. They wanted to go ahead and lock down an enormous piece of property so they could expand as quickly as possible if it came to that.
So, what happened?
What happened is Universal Islands Adventure was extremely well reviewed, extremely high guest satisfaction marks. So did the hotel, so did City Walk, but it didn't drive the attendance they were hoping for. They were hoping for a huge burst of attendance from the opening of this. But they had several things going wrong at that time. Part of it was the economy. Part of it was the fact that they had some branding issues. They originally called their new complex Universal Escape, which really confused the heck out of people because they didn't understand the difference between Universal Studios, Universal Escape, City Walk, and Islands of Adventure. So for all these reasons, they had financial issues, and because they spent a ton of money on this project. If anyone's been to the property at all knows how extremely well laid out the Universal campus is.
Yeah.
This is Island. This is now what's the new property. This is the Epic Universe. But what they had these financial issues that were happening, so they sold off the land. And I want to say 2003. Universal had changed hands at that point. Universal Studios itself had changed hands, not the, to another company, and called Vivendi. And Vivendi was also in having financial issues, so they sold off the land in 2003 to a developer. And that developer had to promise that he could not build a theme park or an attraction on that property.
So at this point, it was just a giant piece of vacant land near I Drive, near
Mm-hmm.
Lockheed Martin. And this new landowner could not put a theme park on it simply because the previous landowners were a bit bitter that their dreams would never come to fruition because of their own financial struggles. Do I have that correct?
Pretty close. Basically, it wasn't that they were bitter about their own struggles. They just didn't want competition. They already
Okay.
had SeaWorld just down the road from this property. SeaWorld's just a couple miles from Epic Universe's property. Another couple miles in the other direction is Universal's main campus. They just didn't want the competition.
So then the ownership changes hands again.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
yeah.
Well, basically, what changed was Potter. NBC bought Universal around 2005, 2006. I don't remember exactly. But when they did, their first thought was to sell off the theme parks to quickly make some money and get some of the debt from that purchase gotten rid of. Then Potter hit. When Potter became the huge hit at Islands Adventure, the first land, Hogsmeade, attendance went up about 7%, tourist taxes went up about 7%, which is enormous. That's an enormous jump for 1 year. They knew they had a hit on their hands. They knew they had a moneymaker on their hands because they spent the money and did that land right. They did almost everything you could possibly do right with the property they did with the first Harry Potter land. And so they once again decided, no, let's keep the parks. These are money makers. And that's almost exactly when they started looking at repurchasing some of this land that they'd sold off in haste.
Okay, and so today, some of that
Hmm.
original parcel is now owned by Harris
Hmm.
Rosen,
Hmm.
and the resort out there. But Universal still owns a giant chunk of property out there, and that is where Epic Universe is slowly building from the
Hmm.
ground up. And it's so
There's some
exciting.
murals, yeah.
Yeah, when you drive out in that area, and we're talking about the area near like Sand Lake, I Drive, you can see it.
Kirkman.
Yeah, and Kirkman Road, you can just see it rising from the ground, and it looks really cool. It'll be interesting to see what happens to all the traffic out there because it's already kind of a busy area. You've got, as you mentioned, Lockheed Martin nearby. The Golf Channel used to be out there. There's a lot of big businesses out there, so it's already kind of a busy area. But we're starting to see Epic Universe take shape, and this is going to have several lands. So tell us
Hmm.
about each of those lands.
Well, when you first arrive into the park, there you enter an area that is just supposed to be sort of a magical sci-fi land called Celestial Park, if I'm not mistaken. It has a roller coaster that's called Star Flyers. It's got the Celestial Carousel in the middle. This is video of how to train your Dragon Land, which is another land based on the DreamWorks films, which of course NBC Universal owns DreamWorks now. Uh, this is the How to Train Your Dragon is actually the one I'm looking forward to the most. I think it looks just exciting how much it looks. This is a fly through ride of the main roller coaster you're looking at with the dragon. You saw the dragon fly over the CGI simulation. That's not necessarily a myth. They are looking at drones and other ways to bring dragons to life in unique ways and innovative ways. They also have a new Harry Potter land, a third Harry Potter land based on the Fantastic Beasts movie and the original Potter movies at the same time. They have a land based on the classic Universal monsters like Frankenstein and Dracula and the Wolfman and the Mummy and the creature from the Black Lagoon. Those are all going to be featured in another really gorgeous looking land they're building. This is Super Nintendo World, which so many people are looking forward to. This
Yes.
was a huge hit when it opened in Japan originally. It was originally designed for the kids zone area of Universal Florida, but they quickly decided this was too big a project. They thought this
Yeah.
could easily help anchor a new theme park, and so that's what they did.
Which that makes sense. I mean, people of
Mhm.
all ages are Nintendo fans, right? Like we grew up with Nintendo. Younger kids today are into Nintendo. So that
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense. And this place is so big that Universal is actually planning on moving some of their back studio operations from their kind of original location over to this new location, correct?
That's correct. Even though they sold off a whole bunch of that land, what they bought back is still larger than their original Universal campus. They still have more land now. So if you think about all of what you can find on Universal's property currently, Islands of Adventure, Universal Studios Florida, City Walk, Volcano Bay, and all of the hotels and all the parking garages, okay, you can duplicate that. There's enough room to duplicate that on this property and even go bigger. So
Mm.
yes, they took a lot of the land that's closer to Kirkman and Sand Lake, and they are making warehouses and they're making office buildings and they're making all the things you need to do for the business side of a theme park, and they're going to move it away from the campus where they currently are because that gives them room behind Universal Studios Florida and Islands of Adventure to expand those parks.
And that's very interesting. Do we know what those plans look like? The
Not
future of
publicly.
that of that newly available property there.
Not publicly. They're still working on several ideas. I've heard very credible rumors that the Simpsons area may be going away soon for
Mm,
something that would be involved another Nintendo property. There's
okay.
rumors it could be Pokemon. Again, there is a Pokemon ride being developed for Japan. Universal Japan is actually their number one theme park in the group. Um, and that is going to be an innovative ride itself. But I don't know if they for certain picked that plot of land, the Simpsons area, for the Pokemon area.
There would
But
be a
that's been
lot
in the
of
works for a while.
and there'd be a lot of unhappy people though if that Simpsons area disappeared.
Oh, the Simpsons area's time is running out. The contract's
Come
running out.
on. Yeah.
I'll tell you why, because Disney owns The Simpsons now. Universal's
Okay.
already paying Disney a ton of money for the rights to Marvel for Marvel Superhero Island and Islands Adventure, and they're paying Disney money for The Simpsons. Universal doesn't like that. They have enough of their own IP. They've got enough of their own properties. They don't need to pay Disney money to pay money to their biggest competitor.
So I guess we'll have to get our Duff beer at Disney in the
Hmm.
future
You very
if we
well
want it.
might.
Yeah. Okay.
You very well might.
So
I'm sure Disney won't let that go fallow.
you mentioned hotels.
Hmm.
Obviously, there are several hotels. Universal opened, in the recent past at their main campus. It seems like people who are in the theme park industry have determined that hotels are a very important piece of that whole campus. Will there be new hotels at Epic Universe?
Oh yeah, they already have three hotels they're about ready. They're almost finished construction with. It's amazing if you look over from even you can see some of it from Universal Boulevard and near the convention center, and some of it from the roads behind Epic Universe. There's an enormous hotel in the center of the park, or not the center, the back part of the park called Grand Helios. It's the end of the Celestial Park area, and the Grand Helios is going to be the most luxurious theme hotel that Universal has in their
Wow.
portfolio. It's an incredibly beautiful piece of architecture they're working on. Lots of copper, lots of it's to me it sort of looks like they took sci-fi and merged it with steampunk and merged it with I don't know something from the Mediterranean. It looks beautiful to me. They also have two more value-oriented hotels, although I certainly wouldn't call them cheap, towards the start of the front of the property, right as you would drive into the entrance. Um, Forgive me, I'm forgetting the two names on them, but they're enormous hotels that are have these really innovative exteriors that they have these panels that glisten and they change colors in the
Oh,
sunlight.
that's cool. And so that's interesting. And you touched a little bit on the price points. Do we know
Mm-hmm.
what the room rates will be for those hotels?
I don't off the top of my head. I know they've
Okay.
said that. I know they've started hotel sales for the two lower priced hotels. I don't know that they've started reservations for Grand Helios yet, but it wouldn't surprise me. I know they were looking at Grand Helios at being a higher price point, uh,
Hmm.
it- something on the range of the Grand Floridian or so at Disney, and the two moderates would be more on the lines of Pop Century or anything that's on the Skyliner Disney Skyliner line like Caribbean Beach. Uh, a higher priced hotel, but not as
Hmm.
super high priced as the luxury hotels like Portofino Bay at Universal. Universal is, oh, by the way, in case you don't know, only is half owner of the hotels. Lowe's is a renowned resort and hotel company, and they
Hmm.
are the ones who are the driving force of the partnership that has expanded all these hotels and has made all of these properties unique. And all of them are very high rated. All of the hotels they've built are extremely high rated.
So, for anyone who lives in Central Florida, when we talk about theme parks, we always, I feel like, get a little bit of anxiety because we just think immediately about all the traffic.
Yeah.
I-4 is a parking lot most of the time, and we know that those areas are already extremely busy. And then when you build something like this that is hoping to attract tens of thousands of people really on a daily basis, what is that going to do to our roads, and what are our transportation options? We are starting to get some rail lines coming through Central Florida. So,
Mhm.
what is the future of transportation in the attractions area and specifically to Epic Universe look like?
Well, we can start with what's under construction and almost ready to go right now because Universal spent a lot of money, millions and millions of dollars, along with the FDOT in Orange County, to build up the area around Kirkman, Sand Lake, I Drive. That whole area of the roadways is being realigned, especially Kirkman. They call it the Kirkman Road Extension, and Universal's paying for much of that cost. It will help feed traffic better into Universal Boulevard, which is where the entrance is to Epic Universe and the new property. Um, it and it also has some innovative features because of course this is several miles from the original Universal campus, but they sure want their people who stay at the hotels on at Portofino Bay and the others there, Hard Rock and the others, they certainly want them to go to Epic Universe. So they have a bus system, an electric bus system they're working on that will drive down the middle of these new roadway that they've created between the links Universal's main campus and the new Epic Universe campus. So the new road system is
Wow.
both for regular traffic, for theme park traffic, and for Universal internal traffic, and it should help all three. Frankly, it's really an interesting design.
And what about Brightline? Brightline is still relatively
Mhm.
new to Central Florida, and we know there's talk about Brightline maybe possibly having a stop in the attractions area. What's the latest on that?
Oh, that's a long and complicated saga, but I'll tell you the short version. Brightline, long, long ago, before they even broke ground on the line that's now running between OIA and Miami, they already had announced before that had finished, before the construction was barely underway, they wanted to go to Disney and then to Tampa. and they had a plan. They had an agreement with Disney to build a train station at Disney Springs or near Disney Springs, and Universal had a fit, and so did the other people on iDrive, because Brightline made it pretty clear that they wanted to follow the 417 because it was cheaper and easier, almost more than $1 billion cheaper to build the train with the right of way along the 417 linking to Disney versus the beach line, because that also involves not just the beach line, but also involves I-4 itself. And although there is room for a train in I-4 because it was designed, it was an act of a state constitution to build high-speed rail, and so there is a right of way for high-speed rail trains in the middle of I-4. So there, that can be done. It's just going to be a lot more expensive. And so Brightline obviously balked at the idea. So Mayor Jerry Dimmings and the iDrive Coalition and Universal and others have been trying to put together what they call the Sunshine Corridor to involve SunRail to take on some of these costs and share the wealth and share the costs and try to get some federal grants to bring this project, to bring rail through the heart of the tourism district, where frankly it belongs.
Yeah, it seems like it would make a ton of success, a ton
Mm-hmm.
of sense. But Ken, when you mention SunRail, the first thing that comes to my mind is it doesn't operate on the weekends.
No, it doesn't operate the weekends. It also doesn't operate anywhere near Epic Universe or the airport or the convention center. So they've got some work to do. There are rail lines in that area they can realign and expand, and I'm sure there'll have to be some new construction as well. But they have drawn up plans, or at least preliminary plans, to link the Sand Lake area of the Sand Lake station of SunRail, somehow linking it to OIA MCO, the new hub where Brightline has its own train station. That whole building complex adjacent to Terminal C was designed to be expanded for SunRail and other customers. So if they can get an agreement, there's room to build a SunRail station there, and then eventually, if it all works out, they would first link it to the airport, then link the airport down to the convention center, and then hopefully beyond to Disney and beyond. And that's up to Brightline and SunRail to work out the costs. And by SunRail, of course, mean the state and all of our local counties have a big say, because they're going to start taking over paying for SunRail very soon.
Mm-hmm. Well, we certainly know when it comes to theme parks, if they build it, they will come. And it's only a matter of time before people start walking through the doors at Epic Universe. They say that they're going to open in May of 2025. It was delayed already a bit, they say, due to COVID. Will it open in May of 2025?
Oh, it'll open before May. May will be the grand opening.
Okay.
This park, if you look at the aerials, the construction is quite impressive. Originally, yes, they originally were going to open almost 2 years earlier, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say 2023 was when they originally hoped to open, but COVID did cause a lot of problems with both, just because they had to shut down and lost all that revenue, but also because you had to get all the builders and the contractors and the design people back up and running after the pandemic shut everything down. And it took a long time to get everything started again, even though they were very proactive at getting Epic Universe back under construction. The park does not look to me like it needs another 6 months worth of work. They're testing several of the rides already. I think most of the rides actually are in progress. Just earlier this week, they released pictures from inside the Harry Potter land that looks just like the concept art. It's done. That part's finished. I'm not saying the whole ride is finished, but they've gotten some serious work done on all of these lands and all these projects. I would not be at all surprised to start seeing soft openings for team members. That's the universal name for the employees, is team members, and then also for annual pass holders. A couple of months before May, I could see it happening in like late January or February, but March is probably more likely, or mid to late March, around spring break, I would guess.
So, and that leads me to my next question. If you are a current Universal annual pass holder, does that get you into Epic Universe?
Not currently. Right now, they have no annual pass sales for Epic Universe, although they are allowing annual pass holders to buy tickets to the park. It's the only, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's the only way you can buy a single day ticket to Epic Universe. They are worried about this park being a smash hit. They're worried about its success, which is a nice problem to worry about. But they are worried that it's going to be so overwhelmed with demand that they're going to have people frustrated and angry. So they hate the idea of making too much money by including all this with hotel packages. Most of the Epic Universe tickets are multi-day tickets, and most of those multi-day tickets are tied up with stays at the hotels that Universal and Lowe's own. and operate. But they are making concessions to annual pass holders. Annual pass holders can buy single day tickets. In fact, several people here in our New Six family are excited that they're going to be there on or near opening day as annual pass holders with their single day tickets.
And so that leads me to my final question. Are you one of them?
I am not. I'm not currently a pass holder, but I will be soon. I just life got in the way the past couple of years, and I lost my Universal annual pass holder status a few years ago. But I love Universal. I adore Universal. I will certainly become a pass holder again. I've certainly gone recently,
Yeah.
but I'm not a pass holder right now. But I will be soon.
All right. Well, Ken Pilcher, thank you. It's fascinating as always. So much history behind our theme parks and so many exciting things to come and interesting little details about how it all came together. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.